Tap, tap, tapping. That's just me tapping stuff. Yeah, hey, what's up? It is I, Dolly Dimovsky. Let me show my oh, and hey, and Taylor Bliss. There's Taylor. How's it
Eh,
going today?
so good.
So good. So good. Such a day, isn't it?
I love coming back after a long weekend and not being able to start my workday.
Oh, completely agree. Oh man, it is absolutely bonkers right now. Everything is bonkers, by the way. Um, yeah, who needs? I think we said it. Who needs E3 when when you
It
have
would it would
two?
be a little bit different if this was actually the industry that I worked in instead of the one
Yeah.
that I hobbied following.
Yep. Yep.
but but yeah.
Oh
Wow.
man, it is absolutely wild right now. It
I
sure
don't
is.
there I don't know. I mean, like it's
Well,
one of
break the
those.
news down. Let's break
Yeah.
the news down real quick.
We'll
Okay, so here
start.
we
We'll
go.
start. We'll start with actually saying what actually happened first. How about that?
So there was a metaverse merger by
Shut up.
there actually was a whole other merger that nobody cares about, but go
Um,
ahead.
no, yeah. So the official word is that Microsoft is moving to acquire Activision Blizzard King, which is the official name of that I guess pseudo
I guess.
conglomerate,
Yeah.
for 68 point something billion dollars. We'll just call it 70 for the sake of consistency. And yeah, it would be the largest video game acquisition ever in by a figure of five by comparison to
Mhm.
the next largest. Yeah, I mean, considering that it feels like we've been talking about Activision Blizzard for ever
Every
lately,
episode.
um, it's it's nuts that this is the next story in this saga to be
Yeah.
talking about. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
What a way to kick off! What a way to kick off the new year and the new week. A lot of folks are just, some folks are just getting back to work now after the extended holidays and time off. I think fiscal years are starting to line up right now, and a lot of companies have things that are end of January or at least fiscal quarters. I know you're going to see some reporting popping up here and there. Um, yeah. Anyways, big news. I think it was $68.7 billion is the intent. So this isn't confirmed. It isn't. It's confirmed that they're aiming to purchase them, but obviously the deal has
Right.
not fully gone through.
Yeah,
Right.
so this is an intent to acquire. This is the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of the arrangement between the two. Um, the biggest hurdles are going to be shareholder confirmation, which has to be done
Yep.
on. I believe it's actually only on the Activision side that has to approve it, because Microsoft is the purchasing entity here,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously regulatory approvals, which actually no, I should say that the the investor approval hurdle is probably already set.
Yeah.
Kodak
Yeah.
is, to my recollection, the largest shareholder. Can't imagine that we would even get to the PR phase of this if Kodak hadn't already been on board.
Right.
That
Right.
would be a little weird if the largest shareholder finds out about it after the fact. So we can pretty safely assume that that's already approved. However, regulatory, less so. Microsoft already made headlines 18 months. Well, when did they buy ZeniMax? 18 months ago?
Was it November of or September of 2020, something like that?
Microsoft ZeniMax.
Could probably check sidequesting.com to find out. But yeah.
Um, that doesn't have a date on it. Under the terms, that was September of 2020.
Yeah. So there we go.
Um,
All right. 16
so
months ago, 17 months ago, something like that.
All
Yeah.
right, so that's pretty close. So Microsoft already made a lot of headlines with that
Mm-hmm.
one, and that was for 7.5 billion.
Yeah. Boy, that looks like peanuts.
And we were already kind of like mouth
What does
agape
this
at
mean?
that acquisition.
Yeah.
And we're talking about something that's 1/9 of the scope monetarily, by
Mhm.
comparison. It's an insane figure. But Activision Blizzard is also a monolith of a publishing company.
Yeah. Yep.
As kind of tweets have gone out. I mean, Call of Duty was respectfully, number one and number three not respectively,
Respected.
on the sales figures for the PlayStation consoles
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
And you're potentially acquiring the publisher of those games that your largest competitor, doesn't they don't rely on it, but they get
It's
royalties for every
certainly
yeah, I mean, they PlayStation and Sony get royalties for every single one of those games that get sold for their platform. That's the way that works. So it's impossible to ignore the gravity
I'm
of it.
very curious. I'm doing a search right now. What sold more? What sold better? I'm looking at games industry from November. Activision Shooter primarily sold on PlayStation platforms, with PS5 accounting for 41% of sales. So that's
And then
Call of
what is
Duty.
the rest of the breakdown PC and Xbox or
It's PS5 is 41%. Now this is UK. All right, so
okay.
Vanguard. So I mean, it could be different everywhere else, but for the UK, think of it this way: PS5 is 41%, PS4 is 29%,
Oh, right.
Xbox is 19, Series X is 11. So it goes to show
Okay.
you
So PC. So this
70%
is just console numbers. PC is
just
not
console
reflected.
numbers. Yeah,
God, I wish that we had more numbers for this kind of stuff.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, UK is always kind of like a weird indicator
hmm
because the market is so much smaller and because advertisement laws are different there and
yeah.
a variety of other stuff. So the numbers are good, but not always fully indicative. But God, that's a
It's
lot. That's a
just
big skew. I mean, we if
mhm.
I had numbers and I had time and I had attention span, I would put together the distribution of also
Yeah,
console in UK and compare. We could take percentages, compare that to US percentages and stuff like that. Because you run these numbers elsewhere, like Japan. This doesn't matter, right? So
yeah.
this is a very Western focused news story, and but then again, Xbox is a Western focused
Mhm.
games company. So actually, so is Sony now, as we've been talking
So
about in
Sony
the
now.
in previous shows. So
So
yeah, I don't know.
what's wild about all this is you look at stuff like Overwatch. I mean, I think you're going to continue, and I think even Phil Spencer mentioned it. I think there's some other, or somebody mentioned. I know there's a quote going around from Bloomberg. Bloomberg, some one of their sources that they interviewed said that they're still going to have
Yeah,
stuff like Warzone, and some of the properties will still be on PlayStation, but other
yeah. I
content
mean,
will go exclusive, which we kind of
they
figured
they
that.
they have to make this statement
Yeah,
for the reasons that we just talked about before,
yep,
which is the fact that they're going to have to go into regulatory hurtling. Um, uh, you know, their lawyers are no dummies. Microsoft
hmm
is also well acquainted with antitrust lawsuits. Maybe not the Xbox division of Microsoft, but Microsoft as a whole. Now, granted, they haven't been sued for antitrust since 2000 or 2001, but I'm sure that that's always an ethos within the company is to account for it. So, they saw the writing on the wall when they acquired Minecraft.
Minecraft. Sorry, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, I mean, I think that they carried over what they did with Minecraft into the Bethesda and ZeniMax acquisition, but Minecraft didn't stop existing on other consoles, even when they released new
yeah.
versions and stuff like that. You know, you don't. I think that the power. Yeah, he
There you
has.
go,
He has. He
James.
has.
Yeah,
He has a lot of shares.
yeah.
The. I think that anybody who thinks that like COD is going to all of a sudden become an Xbox exclusive is severely underestimating the pressure that you're able to put onto your competitor
hmm
with the knowledge that you own the IP that drives the number one and number three sales
Yeah,
in terms of software on your competitor's console. Owning that in and of itself is extremely powerful, even if you don't change the dynamic of where the game becomes available. and it lets you do things that were previously impossible to do, even if
Yeah.
you don't change the way that the game is distributed in any way. And I think that to ignore that is kind of silly, and to focus on the fact that they could make it exclusive. I don't see it with Call of Duty. I see it with something else.
Yeah, and you look at like I mean, even in the image that they're showing there, right? You have Overwatch, Diablo, Call of Duty, which are multi-platform, and then you have World of Warcraft, Candy Crush. Yeah, they do own Candy Crush, StarCraft, PC, and mobile, which are that's a huge market for Microsoft is PC. Obviously, mobile they haven't really had outside of Office, I don't think they've had much of a hit on mobile. But Candy Crush is a big, the King Studio is the publisher is a big, still a big force. I mean, they're still ranked in like the top 3 or 4 every month around the world globally. So I think those three will stay on their platforms, right? Because World of Warcraft hasn't come to console, StarCraft hasn't come to a console. I mean, we missed out
In a
on
while.
StarCraft. StarCraft 64. I know we were. Was it StarCraft Ghost? What was the one that was supposed to come out on?
I mean, yeah, StarCraft Ghost was supposed to be a third-person shooter.
Yeah, sure. But again, Diablo. I hate to say Diablo is sort of a hand-me-down, but it has been sort of a hand-me-down, from PC, and then it kind of filters down to other platforms. So I don't know what sales numbers have been like for Diablo on consoles, but I would reckon that. I mean, obviously we say Call of Duty, but Overwatch being a very interesting case to me because there are a lot of console players of Overwatch, a lot of PC. Like the hardcore competitive side is PC.
As obviously PC,
yeah. The console folks like me, when I play Overwatch on console, it's much more for just kind of leisurely having a good time. Not that PC isn't, but you know what I mean. It's more of it's a little bit less formal, I guess, on console and that experience. And so that property, especially with Overwatch 2 coming out, is going to be interesting to follow in the future. I think Overwatch 2 is still coming out to every platform because it's been, shown on every platform. Nintendo and PlayStation have advertised it. Rip PlayStation. I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit more complicated than that.
Yeah. But you look at Crash Bandicoot. You look at Spyro, Tony Hawk. These are games that do phenomenally well, to whatever the degree that they're put out there on other platforms. These are very multi-platform IPs. I think those and Call of Duty to me are Call of Duty, obviously, it's still the biggest beast in platform gaming. But these others, these stronger IPs, I think are going to be the most interesting to watch. I do see stuff like Crash Bandicoot, which was once a PlayStation staple, is now is going to be exclusive to Xbox. I can see that.
I can see that. I mean, if for no other reason other than the fact that they get to make the headline about it.
Yeah. Same with Spyro or something. I think though Tony Hawk also could very much become an Xbox exclusive going forward. And I think that's the hole that Microsoft has had, that Nintendo has plugged for a long time, was this sort of the little more family friendly gaming area. And those IP I think are very important there, and they could be much more important in the long run because what was the Viva Pinata was maybe the last big Microsoft fun family game, and then some of the Kinect sports stuff. Microsoft really needs IP like this to sort of start bringing things in. So
I mean, the other thing to definitely point out is King was acquired by Activision in 2015. Mm-hmm. That was $6 billion. So it's certainly when we think about how monolithic Bethesda and ZeniMax felt at 7.5. King was 6, and that was 7 years. And that was 7 years ago.
What was the Activision Blizzard merger? Do you remember what that one was?
Oh God!
Because remember, Vivendi actually owned Activision for a while, and then Bobby Kotick bought it back. Essentially, wrestled it back.
Let's see. I would have to look up.
All right,
that one.
So he's looking that one up right now. I will say this: we were kind of talking about it in the Discord, and there's a lot of great discourse just in general going around, a lot of hot takes because no one really knows how this is going to shake out. I mean, it really does have the effect of or has sort of a domino effect going. We thought Bethesda was big, but you have other, Sony has their first party and there's really strong third party support. Nintendo's to me, Nintendo's completely out of this in terms of major effect to them. Overwatch and Diablo are on Nintendo platforms, and that's it, right? And Overwatch is, I don't know if anybody actually plays Overwatch on the Switch. Diablo is actually really good on the Switch, but
yeah, Diablo is. But I mean, how old is Diablo 3 at this point?
Exactly.
Diablo. Yeah. I mean, Diablo 3 was like end of life Xbox 360 and PS3 game.
Exactly.
Originally came out in 2012. We're talking about a 10-year-old game that only
and then Diablo 2, I think, was last year, right? The remaster?
Diablo 2 remastered,
yeah. But it's it's going to be really interesting from this. I mean, this to me, this affects. First and foremost, I gotta say, this is the biggest news in gaming maybe ever in terms, at least in the last 25 years. The only thing that could top this is if somebody does buy a Nintendo or a Valve. I think those are the next. Valve is probably sitting there at, I think they were valued at like 10.5 or 12 billion sometime at the end of 2018. So they could be purchasable if Tencent or someone else. But Valve is also it's owned by it's Gabe. So who knows what Gabe's gonna be?
The biggest thing with I feel like Tencent's going to be a harder sell. Here, I mean, if you look at the way that Tencent spreads itself very wide, but a little shallow. Wisely. I mean, it does it widely and wisely, but they're a bit shallower. They buy majority stakes, but not companies outright, right?
Correct.
So they buy majority stakes so that they have influence in many things, but we're not talking about like what we're seeing here, where it's outright acquisitions of companies. I think that because, I mean, especially if you just look at geopolitical stuff, an outright Chinese company coming in to own major video game publishers or similar out of the US is going to be harder to go through regulatory practice. In the same regard, just to throw pie in the sky stuff, Disney buying Nintendo, is that likely to ever go through Japanese legal proceedings? No, probably not. Even if Nintendo, I mean, we're not going to see a hostile takeover happen.
We don't know if this is real
life. We're not gonna see hostile takeovers happen. And frankly, Nintendo's not looking to be bought anyway. So it's hard to imagine something larger than this.
Right. We threw, would Sony buy EA? I mean, that would be the only other thing. But there's the issue with that is the sports tie, the IP, the licensing. So I actually don't think that would happen. EA is sitting kind of pretty right now, and an EA purchase, I think, arguably would be bigger because of the sports licenses.
Right.
And it would cost a lot more than the 70 billion. Even if EA is not valued that much, I think those license agreements are huge and could be, from an effect standpoint that way. What is, there's some metaverse talk, but we don't know what that means.
Nobody. I mean, here's the thing: any news stories that are focusing on metaverse is because it is a buzzword that they believe that generic readers are interested in hearing about because it's associated with Facebook/Meta. Microsoft is not buying Activision Blizzard King because of misgivings about the metaverse.
Right.
That's not what's happening here. Aside from the fact that metaverse doesn't exist, it's not.
Right. No one knows what it is.
It's not a thing. So ignoring that part. The other thing to really stay here is the value that, and I kind of touched on when I was talking about the value of King when Activision paid for it, but Microsoft. I mean, and this is true for basically everybody. maybe not Sony because they do weird stuff. The value of mobile to the landscape for Microsoft is growing increasingly. It's one of the reasons why Game Pass is succeeding. And it has to be a vector that they are very, very interested in pursuing. And they look at the knowledge that King has as a mobile developer, and they want it to be added to their kind of catalog.
And then we get to that point now. The Game Pass question to me becomes ever bigger now, because not only are we talking about, there's some, I even mentioned it, is this the point where Microsoft says, listen, Sony, you may actively want to, if you want to get the Call of Duty campaigns in the future, you may want to potentially look at partnering up with us on this Game Pass type of thing. But the mobile aspect, where with all of these games right now, a lot of them will be playable through streaming potentially. And Microsoft is doing it and I don't want to say just fine, but is doing it okay enough through their browser on as a web app on iOS. Is this enough to tip Apple's hand towards allowing this type of Game Pass service? Because I think that, to me, is not, a lot of folks aren't really talking about that yet, but that could be this could be the news that really gets that over.
So this is the way that I look at it. Microsoft, as part of this announcement, also stated that they have 25 million Games Pass subscribers active. Over 25 million. So we're assuming that it's between 25 and 26, because otherwise they would have said 26. They want that number to be as high as possible. But they are not hurting for subs.
Yeah.
And unless they can broker some sort of agreement, Apple has made its stance regarding subscription services that occur and are active on iOS very clear, which is, if you want a subscription service to operate on our platform, it has to be purchased through us. Now, the stuff that happened with Epic kind of muddied that a little bit, but I'm pretty sure that it would just go to litigation again if Microsoft tried to push something through. I don't think they're hurting for it. 25 million is really good for a minimum $10 a month service.
True.
That's really good numbers. We're not talking about video streaming here. We're talking about subscription video games. It's like 25 million. So I don't know. I was surprised. Yeah. I was surprised by how high that number was. I think that they would focus on making the browser streaming more effective. Okay. They'll probably continue to try and work out an agreement. But Apple's cut of that monthly number is just too high for it to be worth it when the web browsing works.
Yeah, I'm here. Excited, despite not playing any of these games, though. I'll start playing the COD campaigns on Game Pass now. That's
for as long as the COD campaigns still make it in the games. Sure.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. I mean, you look at their sales, right? I think you mentioned it earlier. The first number 1 and number 3 games on PlayStation every year or at least last year, were Call of Duty. To me, I'm much more of a campaign player, a single player story player, because I think that, to me, that adds enough to the games. I think you could see, I do think that this will be a great place for that kind of stuff. I mean, Diablo on Game Pass is going to be great. Call of Duty campaign on Game Pass is going to be great. StarCraft on Game Pass is going to be, and this actually has, I think, the ability to reverse the tides of World of Warcraft, because now Microsoft has Elder Scrolls Online, they have Fallout 76, and now they will have World of Warcraft. And not that any of those are going to be interoperable by any means, but if they can lay out and say, we have 3 of the biggest MMOs out there, we have the legacy World of Warcraft. Now they're going to potentially utilizing even more technology, more capabilities to improve those games. You could see WoW make a turn in their favor. But yeah, I don't know.
Maybe
I haven't
actually
played
don't.
WoW in 10 years. I wouldn't know.
I don't think that they would focus much time or effort on WoW. I think that they
Oh,
would
really?
leave.
Okay.
I think they would leave it mostly on autopilot.
Okay.
The that's of course that's just my opinion.
Sure. Bring WoW to console though. I mean, there could be there could be some.
I mean, there's been when I feel like it was 10 years or more ago that we saw headlines about whether when that was coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
It's such a day. It's such a day.
It's just really crazy. Really wonder if it's actually going to be approved, how much regulatory pushback there's going to be.
And what is going to be Microsoft's concession? I mean, what are they going to tell the FTC? When it comes to those types of questions, they're going to say, no, we're going to keep, big games like Call of Duty and Overwatch and all that continuing on other platforms, but at the same time, we
do intend new IPs to some IPs to be exclusive.
But again, at the same time, are the regulation side, are they starting to get a little bit more wise to what this means for we just, like I said, we saw it with Bethesda. We're going to keep some stuff going. We found out keep some stuff going means you're still going to get ESO and Fallout 76 and good luck. Everything else is going to be. So what is that going to mean? And again, this could be a case where Microsoft says we are going to be actively working with our partners and competitors to put Game Pass on everything, including televisions, including new hardware, including printers, including PlayStation and Nintendo. I mean, that may be the caveat. So
yeah, what's interesting is how when we start to see those standalone devices, how well because it's a dedicated device for it, how well the streaming boxes are going to work for cloud.
We'll see.
We are going to see.
Hey, that the Xbox Series S is looking really good, and you can find them in stacks all over the place. We were talking about that. Well, I'm going to let you go. I've got another meeting to head out to, another emergency meeting. Great talking to you, Taylor. Big news of the day. Feel free to leave comments on the post and YouTube and Twitch, and we'll get to them. And I'm sure we'll be talking about this all.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I think this is one that's going to come back up on the regular show too.
Yeah. All righty. Take care, everybody.
See you.